Today we get to do shapes, and Fred is sitting in the shape we're going to draw. It's a square. You can do a lot with a square. I'll just turn my paper so that it's square to you. So most people can draw a square. It doesn't need to be perfect. Can you see that? I don't know, maybe I'll draw that thicker. I know, I'm going to use charcoal. Pardon me for the pause. I'm just doing this so you can see it better. You don't need to use charcoal. In fact, charcoal is kind of hard to erase. If you don't have a box, and now we don't because Fred isn't getting out of his, I'm just using a piece of plasticine. You can use Play-Doh. That's what most people have, but I have plasticine. And I've made myself this square. I've made a box. You can't really just make a square, you have to give it depth. How do we draw that? That isn't as hard as some people think. Now I'm just drawing on fax paper. I got a bunch of that from a roll, see, from the secondhand store. I got 4 rolls for $2. So if you have fax paper around, it's good for scrap paper, practice work. It's wider so it'll show up easier for our purposes. Now, you can't tell that that's a box. All you see is a square. So when I look at it head on, I can't see that this is a box either. I have to turn it slightly. Now I see it has an end, which I knew anyway. Now it's further back. So what we can do is draw another square further back. I'll just draw the parts that are able to be seen past the first square. This is called overlapping, and overlapping is a really good way to learn to do perspective. Now if I just connect my corners, I've got a box. Now it's a see-through box, but what we can do is we can use some shading. We'll pretend that the light's coming from here, and we'll just shade this in. There won't be any shadow on top because the light's coming from the top. There might be a bit, if it's coming from the back, there might be a bit on the front. I'll just make it a lighter shade. But there will be a shadow from the back. And that's what gives us our perspective. Now you can draw, if you get a piece of Play-Doh and you make a box, you can do many things with a box. I'm going to show you if it's an empty box. Let's say it's a long one like the one Fred is in, and I want to have another one. I have the back further back. See, I've drawn this part. Now I'm drawing this back piece. So here it goes. And I'll connect those dots. Those corners, sorry. I won't shade it in just yet. I've got a box. Now I'm showing it's empty by being able to see inside by that little line there. If I want to put a lid on it, I just draw another square. And again, if I want the light coming from there, then this is going to be in the shade. This is going to be in the shade. And this is going to be in the shade. There, you just have drawn. And let's do the front too, just because we'll say our light's coming a little bit from the back. And if it's coming a little bit from the back, there will also be a little bit of shade in the box itself. If this is leaning forward, you could show it just by, we'll just kind of erase these lines here. Now it looks like the box lid is shutting. You can do things with boxes. Let's just do the same. Only this time we can put a roof on it and we have a house. we can put a hole in our house. And if the light's coming from here, it's going to be dark in here and dark on this side of the house. Nobody has a door like that, but we'll just say there is. When you can draw a box from any angle, you can put it on its end. If you want to draw it from the top, you're still drawing the front that you can see, the back that you can see. We don't always have to put it to this side, but I'm just doing that so that you can get used to doing that. And now I'm seeing the top. I guess I was in that one too. Okay, let's turn it this way. So now I'm seeing, let's do it from, like as if we're looking up from the bottom. I don't know how to show that with this camera, but I can draw it for you. If we're looking at it from the bottom, we'll be seeing the back like this. And if the light is coming from, let's put the light here. Okay, so now this will be in the shade. And this will be in the shade. Let's make this darker. Now, if this is up in the air, perhaps it has a shadow down here. It's floating. It kind of looks like that now, doesn't it? That would be if the light was from up above. That would show that it was floating. So you can do a lot of things with a square. If you want to make an idea like a stapler, let's just do our box. Because a stapler is basically a box with another now I should have practiced this with another box instead of just a lid. You know, once you've learned, if you want to practice doing blocks or squares, most people have kids blocks around, and lots of times what I'll do is I'll just set up a scenario and then I'll try to draw what I see. I know I picked up something when I walk in Mipawa here. I find things where the train track used to be. There's another square that's got a little end on it. So look for squares wherever you go and then set up your practice place. Just get a scrap of paper, and a pencil actually is a good tool. You don't need charcoal. It's kind of messy, but it worked for this. And I did, no, I don't want to touch this because I got my hands all messy, but I got a hinge, and it's just a square. It's actually two squares, and I used my watercolors on this. There are many squares around your house, so use your hands and make some marks.